All right. I know we're not fully past COVID, but there are some lessons we should have learned. One, I pose a question. Who's the one doctor you will trust with your life today? Now, 5 doctors became famous throughout the COVID time. Let me throw those names out. I bet you know most of them. And by the way, I don't think I knew a single one of these names before COVID. So there's Marty Makary from Johns Hopkins University, Scott Atlas from Stanford Medical, Robert Malone from the University of California and Harvard, Scott Gottlieb from Mount Sinai Medical in Manhattan, and the most famous of all, Anthony Fauci. Now, all 5 of these guys are just incredibly qualified in virology. They're all doctors, scientists, researchers, highly educated, experienced, graduated top of their classes, have written tons of journals for the professional medical, disciplines out there. They're 5 equals for sure. However, during COVID, the press, social media, government bureaucracies elevated Dr. Fauci, who's the head bureaucrat. They elevated him to the position of Pope of American medicine, just like the Pope in the Catholic Church. So all of a sudden, when he spoke, it was ex cathedra, meaning it was infallible, it was perfect, it was the very words of God from heaven. Now, let me say this. I have never been for nationalized health care. Was against Obamacare. I was against Hillary care. I'm against any type of government care, period. I don't want the government to be in control of any part of my medical life. So I'm against any mandates of drugs to take or clothes to wear, whatever else. The government needs to provide information and come up with public policy that might help. So I'm against all that stuff. But what happened, though, is, holy smokes, like I mentioned Fauci, the other 4 guys, they have been accused of misinformation, disinformation, falsifying information, which is lying. When they wrote an article, they were criticized as being more opinion than fact. Listen, if any of that was true, they should have to appear before a malpractice board and lose their medical license and never practice again. So this is serious stuff because it deals with our medical life. By the way, Robert Malone was the worst of the 4. He's the one that was on the podcast with Joe Rogan. And so Neil Young, the famous rocker, pulled all of his music from Spotify in protest. Now, the amazing part of that to me, I didn't care about all that. What got me, though, was the number of Americans I found that literally would take medical advice from Neil Young rather than Robert Malone, who happened to have 9 patents in virology, who was an inventor of mRNA vaccines, had worked with Fauci, was friends with Fauci for decades. It's insane. And so what doctor are you going to trust? And I guess that's my advice. Going forward, there's one piece of information the government does not have, Dr. Fauci does not have, or any of these other doctors. Most important piece is your medical history. Do you know who should treat you going forward is your personal doctor. I remember when the vaccine came out, I went to my doctor and I said, hey, should I take this thing? He said, yes, you should. I advise you to take it. And I asked him questions about it. And one of the other questions was, are you advising all your patients? And he goes, no, of course not. He said, you never have side effects from medicine. You can take anything. It doesn't bother you. I have other patients who are allergic to certain things, have adverse reactions to certain things. So I would encourage them to wait until we know more about this. That's what your personal doctor can do. Keep this in mind going forward.